Yo, what is going on, champs? Shout out Machine Gun and Doomatron. Early and appreciated. Thank y'all so much for tapping in. Yo, yeah, it was a lot going on this weekend, huh? A lot going on this weekend. This was like the time for me to go live, and yet yeah, I dropped the ball. I couldn't get the live set up in time. Ended up covering AAA though. Did some of my biggest numbers to date according to my boss and editor. So that's something to talk about here. AAA is having the effect that WWE absolutely wants. And the thing about it is they're seeing it. They're seeing it. They're seeing what they can gain from this market, but specifically the Lucha brand. And we'll talk about that. But the show Worlds Collide is going to be, it looks like, on the eve of the Canelo Alvarez Terrence Crawford fight. You can go to fightsatw.com and read the full details about it. But yeah, it's I wanted to get Abe on, but he's full-time everything, full-time dad, full-time journalist, full-time combat sports aficionado. So Saturday is the exact reason why UFC is out of the pay-per-view business. That main event sucked. And that is another topic we're going to get to. Was it the worst main event ever in UFC history? We're going to talk about it. There were a lot of stinkers, right? Especially in the middleweight division. Sometimes people remember Anderson Silva very fondly. Oh, shit. My bad. And that's not going to work. That's still super dark. What happened? All right, that's better. Yo, so anyway, he said, yeah, Matt said Adesanya versus Romero was worse. That was like really, really bad for sure. But here's the problem, or not the problem, but here's the question I'm going to pose. So we're going to talk about it. Like, is it the worst fight that the UFC has produced at the pay-per-view level main event? I don't know, and I don't think so. There's been some real stinkers out there. I was talking about Anderson Silva and how many fights. I remember after the Damian Maia fight, that was like one of the first times where Dana like grilled one of his like or chewed out uh after the press conference, like hit one of his stars, right? And like Anderson Silva was like a UFC star. Yeah, there's a lot of people that talk about, his Japan fights and even some South American fights that he had, and that's cool, but his notoriety wasn't there until he was with the UFC. Like, you can't say the same thing about Dan Henderson, right? You can't say the same thing about Rampage Jackson. You can't say the same thing about um a lot of people really, especially in that era. But that fight, I think, and again, this is the question I want to pose today. Did it happen at the worst time? Was this the worst time for this fight to have happened, right? Or is it the best time for the worst fight to have happened after you've already signed the $7 billion deal and $7.7 billion deal? Like no givesies backsies, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so they're done. They got it. That's a different situation, Mario. There, we're trying to get that Saudi bag early, and they thought Anderson was going to put on a show. Yeah, for sure. It was a much different situation. You're absolutely right. And I think, again, that goes to the point that I want to ask and make, or I don't know if I'm going to make it, but I want to see if we can make it collectively as a community. What was that fight? What did we get out of it? Like, really? Versus like the Silva fight, like you said, I mean, that was trying to get the Saudi bag early. And Dana, for all the criticism he gets, and I think he deserves a lot for sure. That's the one thing he definitely, there's a few things, and that's one of the few things that he was early. He got to that bag, super early, before it was fashionable and saving dying sports everywhere. But yeah, you said Mayweather Guerrero was more entertaining than Saturday. Absolutely, bro. Absolutely it was. I think that if we went down, like, there are a list of fights that we'll remember worse, right? I would say, though, the one thing that fight had on Saturday, it had that brief Chavez Martinez moment. And here's the thing. I don't want to hear any of the hardcores. Man, I am starting to really dislike UFC or MMA Twitter, MMA Twitter. Or really it's UFC Twitter, because these guys are really just UFC fanboys. They don't even really fuck with MMA. They just like, live and die on Dana's word. But they had that Chavez Martinez moment there at the end. And for everybody that was like, oh, I knew that wasn't, yeah, okay, fine. Like, he wasn't going to come back, at that moment. There wasn't a lot he could do, but still, that fifth round, when he was coming on strong, you wanted it too. Don't lie. You wanted that. Because I remember Chavez Martinez, and that was at a point where Chavez was already annoying as shit. He was already being like a spoiled little fucking privileged, did nothing in the sport yet, but wants to completely ride the Nepo baby ship all the way to the top. I wanted Martinez to win. Martinez, on the other hand, what a great story, right? This dude who was like, pretty decent soccer player, hurts his knee in a way that he can never, ever play again. And yet he is, he's a boxing darling at that moment, right? There are a few boxing darlings at that point in boxing, right? And then there were a few on the verge, right? Like Triple G was either there or on the verge by that point. Chocolatito, a few others, but that was one guy right there who had it, right? And when they fought, it never felt like Chavez was the good guy. It never felt like you wanted to even root for Chavez. But we did, right? We wanted the Mexican to win. We those of us, I say we collectively, that remember his father and how many moments his father gave those of us who spent that time watching it with their grandpa and their dad. We talked about the same, kind of thing, like with Hogan and shit. It's like the memories you make watching these people, right? Chavez was getting outworked. He was unable to keep up with the pace, or I shouldn't say he was unable to keep up with the pace. He wasn't able to um change the momentum of the fight at any point. He never could shift a gear that would make Martinez wary of what was coming back. Now, Martinez, for the most part, fought counter that night. And there's, this fight, obviously, boxing and MMA are so different, right? Please don't let this discussion or fucking verbatim, like, don't let me make this sound like I'm trying to compare the two sports. Not at all. I'm trying to compare two moments, right? Like, I could use Michael Jordan, right? But or I could use like Lakers the year without Shaq when or not the year without Shaq. Who was it with when he came back and dropped the 50? Like, we could talk about a bunch of sports moments that are like brief moments that look like comebacks, right? Uh that Silva Sonnen, that was like one of the best of all time, to me, at least. Chell was a giant piece of shit, I think is easy to say. I mean, that's like the shtick, right? Like, I'm saying that like positively. Like, Chell Sonnen plays the piece of shit really, really well. I don't know him in real life. I'm sure he's probably super nice. I don't think he could get as many jobs working commentary and stuff like that if he was a giant douche, but like, he was the heel in that fight, right? He was the heel in that fight. No matter what anybody thinks or remembers, he was the heel in that fight. And so seeing Silva come back and do what he did, knowing how little hope there was in that fight on the scorecards. I mean, the guy's on his back, right? See, that fight was so important, right? Because there was such a stretch as a UFC fan where people don't understand jiu-jitsu, right? They don't understand Muay Thai. They don't understand a lot of these non-Bruce Lee style martial arts, right? And so the idea that you could be on your back and be in the dominant position was not something casual fans could comprehend, right? So if you were like a dude who watches football or like basketball and you flip over to the UFC, you don't understand that, some guys have the kind of guard where it's like they don't like, you don't want them on their back, and you certainly don't want to be on top of them, right? Any other realm in the world, any other fight in the world, you would kill to be on top of the other person, being able to like land blows, or if you're so inclined or capable, maybe slap a submission on, whatever. That's not the point. But what we saw this past weekend, like, that era was gone, right? So like, when that happened with Silva and Sonnen, that taught the world something about MMA. It taught the world something about UFC. It's, I don't know, it was a moment in time that was huge for the sport, because the cash cow, I don't know if he was the cash cow. Who was the cash cow? I guess Brock Lesnar. But one of the bigger pay-per-view stars of the era, secured his win, made a star out of Sonnen, by the way. That's another thing you have to remember. That promotion allowed him to be who he was, who he could be. And when you look at this past weekend, that wasn't it. The time was now to show the best types of fight, the best you could do. And I'll be honest, that probably was it. Like, I don't know, dude. I'm of the impression that Hanzat might be unstoppable at this division. That's right, I said it. And I don't give a shit what hulked up steroid head is saying on any other hybrid combat sports shows about how he would win. Yo, that's so embarrassing to me when people do that. And it used to happen in boxing a lot. Like, they would come on like a program and say, well, I know how to beat him. Oh, I know how to oh, well, let me show you, because he throws this jab. First of all, even if it's true that you have this idea or whatever, and by the way, he had said it a million times, why are you saying this out loud? Why are you giving your game plan away? You have to be a moron to do that, right? But on the other side of it, it's like, no, like, you're a douche, I think, right? Like, how have you gotten to this level of fighting and think it's so easy that you're going to get up and show Ariel Helwani how you'd win and beat this man. Listen, I don't know, dude. I don't know if this guy is beatable. I'm serious. I mean, he does everything well. And on top of that, he is a phenomenal wrestler, maybe of the likes we've never seen, or maybe like that top 1%, right? Like dominant era wrestlers like GSP, who really, established wrestling. Like there are eras of MMA, right? And this is what people don't understand when you talk about MMA and boxing. MMA is in its infancy still. Okay, boxing is a sport that dates back hundreds of years. Okay, professionally, obviously, it's the more modern era is different, right? But when we're talking about hand-to-hand combat, I mean, it's thousands of years of a legacy. So MMA is not that. And MMA is not that because it continues to evolve. It's not the same sport that it was in the era of Chuck Liddell. It's not the same sport that it was in the era where guys were wearing gis inside the cage and wrestling dudes in sumo. Like, it was a great idea, right? It was such an American idea there in the 90s. Right at the end of Hulkamania, at the end of Stallone. Well, I guess not the end of Stallone. Schwarzenegger's big, like all this like Americana is just crashing in, right? There's a documentary on steroids called Bigger, Stronger, Faster, I think it's called. Not the Kanye song. And they do a great job of painting this picture, right? And so here comes the UFC, and they're like, dude, what if a boxer fought a sumo wrestler and a black belt in karate fought a Muay Thai fighter? Like, it was just like this crazy, like, there were ideas that you would have as a kid on the playground. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, can Bruce Lee beat Mike Tyson? Like that old shit, right? It's like the oldest argument in the world. And once you understand combat sports, you understand how much more nuanced it is than style versus style. So I don't know. I just think that you see the UFC go through its Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu era, then you see it go through like its wrestling era, right? Where people start showing how much wrestling can dominate and the inside fighting stuff. Also, can't forget that, like knees and elbows, the people that were like knocking people out, mostly in Pride and stuff. But like as MMA evolved, it's had these hurdles. But today it's different. Today it's like in this commercial landscape where people still expect certain outcomes. And what happened on Saturday, yo, that's I don't know, dude. I think it's a huge hit to the company as a whole. To be in a position where you're showcasing, and that's the other thing, is like this is like one of the best in the world we're talking about now, and there are other guys that have showed this style, right? And from this background that seems to be unbeatable, when you look at Connor and everything that happened in his era. I mean, he was really like super exposed by this culture of fighting that Kamzat really he embodies, and some dangerous motherfuckers, for real, killers, bro. I'm not like saying that like, oh, that's dope, or anything. I'm just being for real. Like, these are fucking scary dudes who could really, really hurt people, but they're also capable of some boring ass fights, right? Like, people don't remember Khabib was like put out some stinkers. There's like a lot of people who have these, like they get these huge reputations early and have to live up to them, right? And he's a guy like that. He really is. But we'll get more into the fight later. I do also want to talk well, we're going to talk about AAA for the start of the show, but I also want to talk about Moses big win against Dillian White. So many Monday morning quarterbackers out there, though. That bothers me. To be jumping on the Moses train like that, as hard as you can, so hard that you're claiming he should be fighting Usyk next. That's crazy. That's just crazy. You know, I saw Two Tone put something out on Twitter about Jake Paul should fight Moses, right? It was a silly comment to a degree. I think he was trolling. I mean, he must have been trolling. He was like, "Oh, they both beat like former heavyweights, like, and it's like, yeah, one of them was Mike Tyson, who hasn't been, considered an elite fighter since like really the late 90s. I mean, you could say the 2000s, but that was a marketing campaign. Like, don't lie. Like, we all know who he beat and who he didn't beat, after we got into this millennium. And we know that yeah, he kind of got exposed after that. But anyway, I do think though that the people have this excitement for a reason. And while I don't like Moses and Jake Paul, mostly because Moses gets that payday, and I don't know if he should right now. I don't know if that's the best thing for him. It's not like I'm trying to like check pockets, right? But like, y'all seen what happens to guys like Joshua Claude, who make their money and then never come back to the sport, or Marcos Maidana, these guys who make these. And I'm not saying that of Moses. I'm sure. Listen, hearing this guy talk, he means business, bro. He's trying to be for real, like a for real champ. Shout out real quick to Matt. He said a better wrestler will beat him. He isn't the best compared to others. Look at the Usman fight. He went life and death. A lot of people keep talking about that Usman fight, and it's like that definitely, I think, shows how good Usman is, because a lot of people after his downfall have questioned his legacy. What do they say, right? Whenever, like, I don't even know what to say when people say negative, where it's like, oh, his resume is, I mean, they would say like it's aging like fine wine, I guess, right? I guess that's positive, but Usman's entire legacy is better after this past weekend. But man, bro, that was such a long time ago, though, right? Like, let's be real, that was a long time ago, and I don't think there's anybody who was on Usman's level at the time, so athletically gifted and yet so technically good. I don't know. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. But nah, Mario Khabib was actually smashing people looking for the finish. Khamzat was holding for a decision. Absolutely. All I'm saying is that there were some Khabib fights that some people thought were a bit more boring. But he was always advancing. He was always advancing. That's absolutely for sure. See, and that's another part of this conversation that has to be had. It's like you have this UFC idea that, oh, well, this was a boring fight, and the only people that think it's a boring fight are casual fans. No, I don't think that's true. I really don't. Because again, this was more of a lay and pray situation. I mean, yeah, he got him, he tagged him with some shots, and, you know, in some moments, specifically when he was getting him in crucifixes, the amount of damage was intensified. I'll give you that for sure. But yeah, he laid and prayed a lot of the time. I don't know, man. You can't have them kind of decisions like that. You can't have them kind of fights like that, because people will never respect you as a champion until you give them a life and death, especially in the UFC, I think. Right? Like, look at who people consider some of the greats. A lot of these guys were also knocked out really fucking gross. Chuck Liddell, Evans, um, a lot of these people got exposed, but their legacy isn't remembered that way. You know what I'm saying? It's about, oh man, what moments did they give us? And I'm sorry to say that, but that's the aspect of UFC that really, it does matter what kind of fight you put out. Like, you could put out a boring boxing fight, but that's something that mostly everybody has seen or expected before, right? Like, at this point, if you buy in to a boxing fight that ends up really boring, like Ryan Garcia, like, you just adding it to a list of a bunch of other bullshit that we've bought. With the UFC, there are a lot of first-time people who expect carnage. They expect blood. They expect when they hear you promote a fight as like two of the best, literally like the best, And by the way, like DDP was such a good story. DDP really managed to make the most out of his name. But anyway, we're going to talk about all that. We're going to talk about Moses. We're going to talk about Usyk. How close is he to a fight with him? And what should this road be to, the top? But we're going to start real quick with wrestling, though, because, that AAA show, holy shit, that was such a good show. For anybody who was not, oh, you know what? Let's just go back to... For anyone that was not, by the way, the office is a mess. We are looking to move the studio, and so sorry, the lights are really hot for some reason right now. All right. Yeah, the office is it's fucked up. I gotta get it. Really, it was fucked up because I put all this stuff in the thing, thinking I was gonna go live from my parents' house, but whatever. So yeah, let's start with AAA. I got to cover the fight this weekend. Shout out to Abe. Shout out to fightsatw.com. Y'all can head there if you missed the action or want to get my detailed thoughts on the show. You can go there now and read what I thought of the show and all my coverage there. Also, I'll be covering Raw tonight. Probably Clash in Paris too, I'm going to assume. But I'll tell you. Oh, wait, no. Forbidden Doors this weekend. Never mind. Clash in Paris is next weekend, right? So anyway, it was a great show. AAA was a great show. They really did a great job of blending a style of WWE that fans coming over to view the product can be familiar with, while keeping the action. Sorry. Dude. I feel like I'm on like crack or something. I'm like sweating and spitting. I need an orange juice and a cigarette ASAP. But anyway, the point I was making, what I was saying is AAA was great. The show was awesome. It really did what the WWE needed it to do, right? And everybody that's working these shows is doing it really, really well. Adhering to style and kind of bookings that go into the show, like a AAA show or like a lucha show, and pulling them off. And we're not going to go like one by one throughout the whole card, but I am going to touch on it because it was a really well done show for the crowd that was expected. First of all, it was at the CDMX. No, wait. I think it was Arena de Mexico City, ADMXC or DMXC. I don't remember, but it was the arena they've had it at for like over 10 years. I think 2012 is when they started doing it. if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, that arena's had it forever. But of course, this was the first time Triple Mania, which is obviously a playoff of WrestleMania because it is AAA's biggest show of the year. This was Triple Mania 33, right? So they've done it before, but they've never done it like this, right? And the YouTube side of things was crazy. So many people on both sides, right? Because like I went over to the AAA broadcast a few times to see, what the the dialogue was like in the chat, and how people were reacting and responding to the product. And I don't really read Spanish super fast really well. So but what I can tell you is it was enough of the same kind of good stuff, like good commentary, that people were enjoying it. They absolutely enjoyed it. Where the fuck is? Oh, thanks, buddy. I don't remember though. It might have been Walmart, Target. I don't know. Yeah, I'm a big Nightmare on Elm Street fan. I think this one's my favorite. No, wait. No, but I do have my favorite is my old favorite was the Dream Warriors, which I have that shirt too. But people shit on 2. I actually like 2. I relate to that kid in part 2. I was always like really scared to go, or not scared, but it was always like a thing for me to like go to pool parties because even before my surgery, the stab wound, like when you get cut in like a way where it goes in and then it heals back in, right? So there's like a flap over. And now I weighed 135 pounds in high school. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't like I wasn't fat, not at all. But the skin like flapped over. If you've ever seen anyone stabbed in their scar, you'll know what I'm talking about, how the skin kind of goes in. So I was always like very subconscious about it, even though I had girlfriends. But it wasn't like a thing, like, at that age, like it's not like they're seeing you with your shirt off like every day. I mean, it wasn't boning in 6th grade, but I don't know. I thought it was a great movie. I thought number 2 was really, really good. The child one is pretty good too, I guess. Yeah, I would say so. So anyway, real quick, getting back into AAA, I want to talk about. Oh shit. I want to talk about the card. Now, first of all, I want to talk about the main topic that I'm getting from the card. And that was the 6-man tag. Let's see if we could play it without being like, we're going to have to be super sneaky about this. Or you know what? I'll just show it like super fat or like. Okay, so here is the moment, right? And that is Di Manito. Di Manito is the Finn Balor doll that went against Mr. Iguana's pet iguana. I fucking love this. This was so well done and so funny. The way that Finn sold this, the way that he committed to this segment or this bit, this spot was so amazing. It felt like he's been in AAA for months or years. Like he knew exactly what the crowd wanted, right? And that goes to show you like his IQ, right? Like this is one of the smartest guys in the biz. Okay, Finn Balor, when it is all said and done, if he's not booking your shows, or if he's not booking a whole promotion, even, or at least producing matches, when his career is all said and done, it'll be a tragedy. It'll be a tragedy to lose this guy like that, because nah, I didn't see it. Oh, I saw the main event actually. Slater and Moose, was it right? Yeah. Uh, so this was so well done. I mean, you have a situation, right, where you're doing something that is a mixed tag, right? Because you had Raquel teaming with JD and Finn, and then you had, you know what? I'm gonna need to look it up because I don't remember everybody's names the way I thought I would. Okay, yeah. So, oh man, and by the way, it was like a situation too where I knew, like, halfway through, it was like, that's my answer for my favorite Lola Vice match, Matt. So if you're still on, I even gave you the shout out in the article, by the way, Matt. I even gave it to I gave you, I didn't give you the like actual shout out, but I snuck that line in there. I wasn't sure if the editor was going to leave it in or not, but that is my champ, champ. Yeah, I loved it in every sense of the word, right? And I'm a guy who really appreciates people who come out and do the job right. And that's what they did, all three of them. Supermax in the building. What's going on, champ?
What up? What up? What we discussing?
Triple Mania, and how awesome and amazing it was. Did you get to see it? And if so, what you
Yes, I watched the whole thing. I loved it. I was angry when Dom didn't win the title, but he's gonna close out, like Matt said, he's gonna close out night one of Canelo Crawford with Dom winning the mega championship.
yo,
I loved it. It was my son's
crazy,
first time
crazy booking.
watching
Huh?
AAA,
What did he
you
think?
know, and oh, he loved it, man. He was, now I've watched AAA in the past, so it definitely didn't feel like the AAA that I knew.
Sure.
But I like how it came across, and they did their job. Like, you know, uh, my son recognized obviously Dragon Lee. He recognized the Judgment Day and Dom, so he was interested, and he got to see some great wrestling. And yeah, I just loved it overall, man. I thought it was a great show, nice and short, nothing too long. Uh, it was paced well, it was timed well. Um, Still a few things can be done, I think, production wise, but I loved it, man. I gave it 9 out of 10.
Wow. Yeah. I think that that's a strong booking. Um, Let me ask you though, because you're the one who said it. I felt like Dom should win as well. Now I'm going to say this real quick before I get your answer on this. I don't know if it would have been the best look for Dom to win at this point after how many belts have been acquired by WWE superstars. And I'm not even complaining. I'm just saying I don't know if that's the look you want or not. But Dom
Well,
elevates the product. Dom
hundred
elevates it in a
percent.
way that you can capitalize off of. So yes, is it fair to a guy like Alberto Del Rio? I don't know. I'm not going to make that, and I want to ask you about that too as well. But all I can say is that yes, it would help the product. Yes, it would help the other guys there. Psycho Clown, Octagon, all these guys that get into any sort of thing with a Judgment Day member or Dom is instantly skyrocketed up
Well,
the ladder.
and
But what do you
and
think?
and
Do you
it's
think
great.
that
It's
winning too
great
many belts in
booking.
other divisions?
Not yet. And I think with Dom, I think it was actually the better booking. Now that we know they're going to do because the Worlds Collide is in Vegas, right?
Yes. The
I
the
mean, think
eve
about
of
it. Mexican
Canelo Crawford.
Independence Day weekend, a lot of Mexicans are going to be in town. Um, it's AAA, so I don't think we'll have traditional WWE prices, but you'll have, you know, the fan base, the market is right there. Dom is hot, the WWE is hot. That crowd when he wins the mega championship is gonna go nuts.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Um,
Hell yeah, dude.
so I
Listen,
think
you
I
heard
think
them. They were so ready for him to win, dude. They were
yeah,
booing the
yeah.
shit out of Vikingo. They
Which
wanted
I was
Dom to win that
shocked.
match. I was
I was
shocked, dude.
shocked.
Shocked.
Um, but Dom is on fire, man. I think I think give it one more Mania, and then after that, he's gonna be in the main event scene. Um, I mean, Dom's a star, man. It takes a lot for me to buy a shirt of a wrestler, but I definitely have a Dom shirt, and yeah, I was ready for him to win too. But now that we know about Worlds Collide, I think it made all the sense in the world because that crowd is going to be hot. It's Mexican Independence Day weekend, and they're going to be ready for it that night. So I just think,
And they need somebody of the Hispanic culture to win because it's not going to happen Saturday. What? The kid's picking Crawford? No, I'm playing. I'm playing.
yeah,
I'm
that's
not giving
crazy.
my picks yet.
You don't
I'm not
believe that
picking
at
yet.
all.
I'm not picking yet. But listen. Okay, so let me ask you this now.
I'll pick right now. Bet the
Oh,
under.
yo, we'll have that conversation at some point. No, listen, I want to ask you though, when you see what happened, and Matt said it best, he said, I think it's understood that Lucha Libre can be a little silly, and everyone understood the assignment. When you see the response, right? Do you think that there could be the that we could see this almost like renaissance of WWE wrestlers almost requesting to go over there to try to to have those types of moments in those matches. I mean,
I believe. I
listen,
mean, look at Otis. Look
Otis,
at
oh,
Omos.
well
Oh my
done,
God! Like that. First of all, Otis was over. I mean, over
over,
like
bro,
Rover, brother.
over.
Um, he,
But them foreign crowds love them a big white boy though. They
yeah,
love
no,
them a
and
big
he
white
played
boy
into it well. He did the
very
thing,
well.
with the Exotico, and so like to Matt's point, right? Like exactly, because I know that I'm watching Lucha Libre, and I know what I think that's what helps to draw is you're not pulling. I think that's why the AEW struggles. Um, when you look at such a big platform, right? Like AEW's on, like you're expecting a WCW, and I think that's what it is when you watch AAA, you're expecting high flying, lots of action, lots of fast pace, and that's what you're ready for. Not necessarily like I've never watched AAA for storytelling purposes, right? That's when I want to watch, you know, some cool shit, and that's a way to get your name out there because, like I said, I think, uh, I think Otis is found a way to reheat himself up and get hot. I think Omos is going to do great there. I think that's a perfect place for him, and I think it's the perfect testing ground because you don't want to put the main title on a guy like Dom too early, right? But now you put the mega championship on him, and we're presenting AAA like it's the shit, like that was Triple Mania. Obviously, that's their WrestleMania, right?
Yeah.
This is your way to groom Dom, get him ready to be the main event guy, and that it's a perfect feeding grounds.
Yeah,
International
I think you're right.
audience, different style of wrestling. It's great.
Now, I want to ask you about a couple things here. First of all, shout out to your boy Conan for getting inducted into the AAA Hall of Fame. It was very
And
well
cussing out a
deserved.
fan,
Yo, and
love that.
cussing out the fans, bro.
Mid
First of all, I
promo,
want to,
go
yo, I
fuck
want to hear,
yourself.
yo, but I want to ask you this though. The fans started a bit of their own version of a carrying cross situation there, where they started chanting for El Patron, who is the former Alberto Del Rio. Now we all know, we don't even have to go over it, that Alberto Del Rio's had many issues over on this side of the fence, and his time with WWE ended in tragedy and fucking shame and a lot of like really bad things. And he put them in a lot of bad spots, not being able to use them at moments where he was hot. He went back to Mexico, became, this huge star, easily one of the most over guys. Then he had a loser leaves AAA match and lost, and it's been presumed since then that he is no longer with the company. But yet the fans are responding to him more than ever, and this has seemed to have almost like an R-Truth type of reaction and response. What do you think about Alberto Del Rio? Do you think there's any chances they end up ever using him again? And if so, why? If not, is it better off? Oh, Mex, you're on mute.
Give me a second. My bad.
No problem. Take your time. Listen, I'm going to talk about
No, no,
that
no. My
because
bad. You're good. I'm back now.
go ahead.
Um, so as you know, I'm an avid listener to the K100 podcast with Conan and Disco, and
Yes,
this was brought up to him, and they said, Conan pretty much was blunt about it. Don't expect to see him anytime soon in AAA or WWE. Um, the problem for the WWE is they're doing things right from a United States marketing standpoint, and in Mexico, there's not really a cancel culture. You know what I mean?
yeah, absolutely.
They're more old school, and that's going to be tricky because I think WWE should and will eventually. You got to bring Del Rio back in over there. You don't have to put him on, you know, Worlds Collide or things like that. But he's a big part of that company. He's why they got hot.
That's true, bro.
And
Yeah, no,
I
I think
mean,
you're
you
right.
heard me say this before. I'm an advocate of second chances. He seemed you haven't heard much bad about him anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Everything we've heard, it's been
though,
work
but the
shoots,
problem is
work
this.
angles.
The problem is this, right? Like, no matter what, there are fans out there that are going to continue, like, they're going to try to troll him for it, right? Like, I'll be honest, I think what he did
100%.
is fucking disgusting, right? Like, I don't have a kid, I have a
Mhm.
niece, and at the end of the day, that was the first time that I've ever had like anything resembling like a child to be responsible of, right? And I'm not
Yeah.
her dad, I never have been, but it's like, the first time she got a boyfriend, the first time she went on a date, like all that was, huge to me. It was, they were important moments, you know what I'm saying? And so I think about it and I'm like, nah, I don't want, my niece who still does watch wrestling to see this fucking dude. But even if we could be in a situation where it's like this world could like move on, yes, give second chances, fine. But I know we're gonna hear it. I know there's gonna be fans that they're gonna have their signs, that are gonna chant, they're gonna do
So
all their things, and it distracts from the product. You don't think that? You don't
I
think
don't
that
think
would be
it
a
will
problem?
in Mexico. Not if you
That's
leave him in
true. I think
Mexico.
you're right. Not so okay.
And to your point, right? All valid points you just brought up. But it kind of makes WWE look stupid when you just had Brock Lesnar come back out at SummerSlam in the biggest moment of the year. So it's like, okay,
I
are we
didn't think of
picking
it
it? Are
that
we going to
way.
be selective? Are we going to be selective in how we approach this? Because
Yeah,
if you
that's
ask
a
me, if we're just looking at the accusations and everything that happened, they're on the same level.
I don't know about that, champ. Brock has, as far as I know and what I've read, now obviously I don't know everything. There's no accusation that concerns Brock physically doing anything. And while I mean, at this point, like all I know is that Vince kept making these weirdo offers. It was Vince that did it,
Mhm.
right? I
Well, here's
I
my thing:
don't know what
is the
Brock's position is, and if listen, if he made a bunch of locker room jokes to this dude, not realizing he was going to get out, I don't know if those are the type of things that we should like hold
well,
against him or not. I'm not.
and
First of all, I'm
hundred
not the guy to
percent.
say it, but that's different, very different from the actual reports that we have and the police investigation. You know what I mean? That
Now,
this.
and let
Hey,
me play devil's advocate. And again, I'm not justifying it. I think me and you are both
go
being
for
clear.
it.
We're not
No, I
justifying it.
appreciate you doing that.
But my issue is you're talking about Brock Lesnar's things, and there's obviously there's been rumors, but something that he's done sober versus Alberto Del Rio and Page were very heavily on drugs. You know, um, it doesn't excuse it, but you do got to take things with like, okay, well, if he's clean and sober, like, is he's making those same decisions? You know what I mean? And that was a two-way toxic relationship that I felt like all of us in the wrestling world could not wait for it to end on both sides.
Yeah, no, that is
So,
true.
but
That is
I
true.
still feel like there's many people that feel that okay, maybe Brock didn't physically do anything with Janelle Grant, but if Vince felt that comfortable doing that with her, what else were they doing? You know, it you know
Yeah,
it, it,
that
it makes you think all the way back to Sable. Did Vince set that up?
mm, Mex went out. It
Okay,
went
there we
out
go.
there at the end. Real quick. Matt said Brock isn't being sued or prosecuted. Alberto Del Rio has been charged of these crimes. Which is, yeah, definitely the fair point there to make. I don't know. I don't know what
100%.
happens. All I know is that there's a high ceiling to me on the product I saw on Saturday. That product
Hmm.
has a very high ceiling, right?
Oh
So
my
if you're in a
God, I
situation
loved
where
it.
you're
I
like, we
was,
don't want to, mess with it yet, like we don't want to risk too much yet, I would get that. I totally would understand that.
but you don't want to alienate the base crowd of it. You know what I'm saying?
Very true. Very, very true.
It's a tricky situation. If it was me, I say you bring Del Rio in and just leave him in Mexico. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, because and the thing is like you said, Mario, you hit it on the head earlier. No matter what, no matter how much contrition he shows, even if he as repents, whatever, there's always going to be somebody, right? There's always going to be somebody that's got something to say. Um, that's just kind of the way of the world, especially in the U.S., man. Like, I've got my history, and it's like, no matter what I do positive in my community, coaching kids, like, there's somebody out there that be like, yeah, but that dude was always fighting and partying and going to jail and shit when he was, 17. So that's just one of those things that it's like, I think at this point, I think a fair trade is just leave him in Mexico. You don't highlight him on these big events until the climate kind of dies down.
Yeah, no, I definitely think right now the product is in a good place. Let me ask you though, is there any fear in your part on your part about WWE sort of what would be the word? I don't want to say like commercializing, I guess is a good
Yes,
thing, but
yes, I'll say
like the
yes because
demonito, like this stuff, right? Like is it a thing
oh, okay,
where
we're going a different direction
well
because
well
again,
go ahead, go
I
where you
felt
were gonna go. Go where you were gonna go.
so I felt like this wasn't like the AAA that I always watched. I
Sure.
wasn't a heavy AAA watcher, but this felt like WWE. And it works, but going back to alienating the fan. What about if I'm a hardcore AAA guy and I'm like, this shit is not what I've been used to. You know,
Yeah. I just listen, that pop for AJ, I'm sorry. I think if there's any person that's in that building that's like, nah, no way, Holmes. This ain't the shit that I'm used to, bro. I get it, but
no.
don't fucking lie to me. You pop for AJ. Stop it.
Oh,
Don't
I was,
lie.
I
You
was, I
pop for
was,
AJ.
I
And I'm
was
not saying
angry.
you,
I
Mex.
was
Not
angry,
you.
but yeah, yeah, yeah.
Not
No,
you.
but
I'm saying
okay,
them
and
who've been
that's
hating and
where I'm
talking all that
saying.
shit, bro. Come on, you loved AJ. And when would you have ever seen AJ Styles?
First of all, I
Never
love AJ Styles. He's one of my favorites of all
love
time.
AJ.
But so this is what I'm saying though. Right now, it's all fresh and new, right, Mario? It's all fresh and new. What about when we get out of the honeymoon phase?
No, you're right.
That's
You're right.
a big question. These are just questions I have. Like I said, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I'm a AAA avid fan, but it definitely wasn't what I had always seen before.
Oof, yo, Matt just made the biggest point of them all. He said, y'all are missing the big play here. The WWE is planting their flag and keeping AEW in America so they can't expand. Now, Mex, combine what Matt just said,
Expand to
right?
what? They got CMLL already. CMLL is drawing huge numbers in Mexico.
Sure, absolutely. But they keep doing this thing where they're planting their flags in places where they're able to monopolize the wrestling community, right?
Hmm.
Um, and so with all the counter booking and all of that, what do you think? Is this, I mean, could we be in a position in 10 years where there's just a complete monopoly and WWE owns everybody, AEW
We
included?
are fast tracking to that point, 100%. I read an article today. I didn't fact check it, but it's like something about WWE has the option to buy TNA, and it's like Okay, they got
I heard
Noah, they
that
got
too. I don't know
AAA.
if that's true or not.
Eh, You do need, I mean, it all depends on how much Shahid Khan is going to want to invest in AEW, and if they can turn a profit, and if they can look. AEW is doing pretty good right now. They're really
They are.
getting better at their storytelling. Um, they're
Ratings
not
are getting
great, but
better.
they're making the effort. And we've always said, me and you have always said, if you could get WWE storytelling with AEW wrestling, you'll have
They'd
the
have a
perfect
hit.
product.
They'd have a hit.
And they're getting better. I do think they're getting better. You know, it, it's like anything else, man. You can't just make book. You can't just book for your hardcore audience if you're trying to expand on a casual level. Same thing in like in boxing. How many times have we said, man, if Chocolatito or who would be some good names right now? Y- Take your pick, lower weight divisions, right? Who gives a
Sure.
shit if it's not Canelo and Crawford? There's a reason Canelo and Crawford is the biggest shit going right now is because they're the biggest names that people who don't watch boxing are gonna know those names, have heard those names. But if I say, yeah, man, but you're gonna have Inoue and Bam fight, that's gonna excite me and you. We're gonna be there for it. But is Netflix gonna pay for that?
True. Very,
So
very
it's
true.
kind of the same concept with AEW. I think you don't want to completely dismiss your hardcore audience, but I think and I think they're on the right track. I- You gotta you gotta get the belt back on MJF though. He's the biggest star they have. You got to get Darby Allin in the mix. I think he's got that Jeff Hardy appeal. Um, and I really feel like they fumbled the acclaimed. I feel like they had something
Oh,
really going there, and it
I
just
agree. I agree. I think they fumbled that. And I'll be honest, the Hurt Business, I feel like, is skating
it's
into some
it's getting
problematic
flat.
territory.
It's
It's
getting
getting
flat.
flat. It's getting
It's getting
flat.
flat. Um,
And Matt, by the way, I love what he just said right here, bro. Always thinking chess moves, right? And he said it's going to come down to who can take over Japan. I think you're right. I think you might be right about that because Mexico is a product that is like separated enough that you could do well in markets without having any one promotion in your corner. But Japan is a different beast, right? Like they're all connected there. Like I'm convinced
mhm.
from what I hear, the triads still like own the entire wrestling world. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of, but
I don't think so. I think if you really want to establish global dominance, you bring that market into China. Nobody's ever tapped into China.
can you though? Like I don't know.
That's so
I don't
that's
know
what
if you
seems
can.
difficult, right? It's
Yeah,
it's a
very.
very difficult thing to do, and if you could break down that barrier, that's you're talking about
That would be
true
huge.
globalism.
That would be
You know what
huge.
I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure. Listen, I think AAA showed us that there is still a lot of really like exciting things to come, right? And taking over that Friday night, right, with Worlds Collide. And I don't know how that's going to work with SmackDown or whatever, but it's just like TKO really understands the market. They really understand what they're doing. Now, I don't love that they're still running that San Antonio show, which my parents ended up getting tickets to. Uh, but all in all, everything's kind of trending in the right way. What did you?
Th-
What do you? So, what do you think? You think Dom takes it then at Worlds Collide?
I think so. I think it's a huge moment. I think especially on the weekend that because everybody's gonna be buzzing, right? Buzzing. That's gonna be.
Absolutely,
We haven't had a weekend like that. I think it'll be. I mean, maybe Tank Ryan. But that's a Mayweather Canelo type of week. It's not Maypac, but it's close. It's Mayweather Canelo type weekend. Everybody's gonna stand still for it. The shot of Dom winning that title, it's gonna send him into another level. And I think that's what it's meant to do is to kind of launch. This is it. That's the beauty of having Triple Mania. Right now, you don't have to wait on WrestleMania. You can launch Dom from here. You know
bro. I just imagine him winning the belt on Friday, and then us seeing like a shot of him like ringside with the belt on
exactly
Saturday.
on Saturday,
Ooh, boy, that's
and
some fucking inner promotion right there. Like, don't
exactly.
tell me you aren't gonna be like who, and especially yo, if he's with Liv Morgan.
And he's got this, bro. He's just got star appeal. He just,
Well,
you know what I mean. It's like him. Jacob Fatu, Braun Breaker. These three guys have like they just have what they call the it factor, right? They just got that. I want to watch them. I want to see what they do. You know, that's that's God given. You know what I mean? That's not everybody. You can be the best worker in the world, and that's you either got that or you don't. You know what I mean? You can't teach what they have.
Yo, and Chris on Twitch says that it is a situation where they're giving too many belts to guys in other promotions. And I understand that for sure. I get that, right? I don't think Mex or I is suggesting that Dom should have the belt and, still work WWE and not do AAA dates or anything like that. But think about it like this, because Matt Machine Gun, again, with the comment of the show, he said they're setting this up for Dom versus El Hijo de Rey Mysterio. And that is the fucking way to go. That kid is over in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
Hugely.
exactly. That
He has a
why do you think he's
lot.
been doing the greatest Rey Mysterio of all time thing?
Hell yeah, hell yeah. And so guess what? So guess what happens when when Vikingo drops it to Dom and then builds the belt up only for that kid to come along and take it from him? Yo, that's a fucking that's a rocket booster up his ass. That's a
Yeah,
rocket
that's the
on
thing.
him to the
You
top.
you give the rub to these belts. You know, yeah, like you say what you want, right? I get it. You want to have the homegrown talent, but like, bro, a WWE start carrying your belt puts that belt on another level.
Mm,
You
no,
know,
you're not wrong.
it just does. You know, obviously, like obviously you wouldn't want WWE just completely bogarting all the belts, but yeah, like a Dom with the Mega Championship that's gonna put more eyes on that title than anybody's ever seen before. More people just this past weekend watched a Mega Championship match probably than they've ever seen in than that title's ever seen.
Mm,
You know,
I think you're
that's
right.
that's just part of it. Although I will say this, and hopefully, Conan said they are working on this. Yeah, we've got to upgrade these titles, man. Those titles look like shit.
Bro, I was thinking the same thing this weekend. I was even thinking about commenting in my piece, but I was like, nah, I don't want to. Because I'm pretty sure CM Punk and Seth Rollins have been reading my articles all summer. Otherwise, why would they be using the term the Braun Bronze? Because I definitely came up with that like 5 months
Hundred
ago, something like
percent.
that. But
Mario, before
yeah,
I hop off real quick, bro, you
please.
didn't go see Jordan?
Dude, he's coming tomorrow.
I thought it was
I got a couple
today.
people. No, it's tomorrow. We got a couple people trying
Oh,
to get
okay,
tickets, so hopefully
sweet.
we
Yeah,
can,
he's DHing
get
down
him.
there.
I know, and I literally just traded him. I didn't think he was coming back till playoffs. I really didn't.
I think it's the perfect time get because that way you warm him up and then he's hot come playoff time.
Hell yeah! No, that's a
And
good point.
just for my buddy Justin, fuck the Rangers. You guys aren't making the wild card. You bought a championship and you'll never get
Damn.
back, losers. And fuck the Dodgers. But
Yikes.
no, hey, look, if you're still on, I'll jump back on, man. But hey, Triple Mania
Appreciate it,
was
champ.
fire, Mario. I mean, that was the best. I don't want to call it non-WWE because it's clearly WWE, but like the best minor league show I've seen in a while. And that's no shade at nobody. That's just how good that event was.
Word. Absolutely. Appreciate you being on, Mex. Tapping in with us. That was Super Mex. Uh, always appreciate to have him on. Listen, we are talking wrestling. We're gonna be on for a little bit longer. I got Raw tonight, so I gotta jump on that. Let me see. So if you're in the YouTube, it is there, and if you are on X or Twitch, it is in the chat right about now. So only got a little time left. So jump on if you want to get your call in. Let us know what you thought of either UFC 319 this weekend, Triple Mania, the decision by TKO to capitalize off of Crawford Canelo with the Worlds Collide pay-per-view featuring AAA wrestlers. I'm hearing that they're going Vikingo Dom for the championship on the main event of that night. Does anybody have that in the chat? Does anybody, Matt, did you hear anything? Did you hear that? Because I saw it, but I didn't have time to confirm it. But yeah, listen, I do have one more wrestling topic I want to get to real quick. This is a solo dolo one, but if anybody wants to comment, please do so. I had my article at fightsatw.com, which you can go to and read, on SmackDown last week or this past week. And I have some comments on the Sami Zayn stuff that I want to get to real quick. All right. Just like less than 5 minutes. Sami Zayn, after WrestleMania, was put in a position where it seemed like he may be hovering around the title, but ultimately there was this will he, won't he, he'll turn idea. I think that WWE was trying to launch out. Now, it was very subtle, right? The first hint we got of it was Sami confronting Jay after winning the title, right, of a Raw after Mania, and basically like congratulating him in a really like kind of passive aggressive tone at first. So it was like, wait, is he mad? Is he not mad? And then when the two basically celebrated, you saw Sami look back like, kind of like eyeing him a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, oh shit, can we trust Sami? And the Easter eggs were planted. And maybe they weren't Easter eggs. Like the hints were planted, right? They were given to us. They were subtle, but they were there. And Sami was on this road. Now, somewhere along the line, they got the narrative of chasing the belt, right? It's time for Sami to go after the heavyweight belt. He dealt with the bloodline. He dealt with the, I guess, Bloodline 2.0. He's currently dealing with the MFTs, which is just the worst name, I think. And all of that goes down. And Sami ends up in a Karrion Kross feud for like ever. Sami should never be in the world title picture, is what Mex says. Well, Mex, I think that you're wrong. Now, however, I will reserve the right to be wrong on my side. But here's the point I'm going to make. You have to give him a chance. Don't you think that don't you think that it was scary for Vince McMahon to put the strap around Brett, after coming off of Hulkamania and all that? Don't you think that was scary for them? But that worked out, right? Don't you think it was scary for them to put it on Michaels? A guy who was nothing like the big monsters that were Andre the Giant or, Harley Race or Hogan or any of these other guys, right? It's just like a regular normal sized guy who is beating Diesel and, the rest. And so I just think that there was like this believability thing, right? And do you think that it was easy for Vince to put it on Benoit? Do you think it was easy for Vince to put it on Eddie? Now, you might say yes, but I would say it was only easy because he was so over that they were willing to throw him under the bus if it didn't work, right? If that title reign went south, Eddie's career was going with it. That was a one and done if he didn't succeed. Now, granted, Eddie succeeded very well, but you're not going to tell me that it wasn't scary for Vince, for somebody who's ran a promotion that has been, basically a bunch of white guys holding the title. And now all of a sudden you have not just a Latino guy, but the Latino guy. For the first time in the company's history, you are putting everything on someone like that. Don't you think that it was probably nerve-wracking for Vince when he decided that Bryan Danielson, WWE's version Daniel Bryan, putting the belt on him over guys like Triple H, Batista, Randy Orton, John Cena? Don't you think that was probably a little scary for them? Or what about Kofi Mania? How scary do you think it was for Vince when he said, you know what, I'm going to put it on one of the New Day guys, and it's going to be the guy that used to be the Jamaican guy? That was probably scary for them, right? And Kofi's a very good example of the opposite of Eddie, right? So Vince didn't think Kofi's run was working well and then got him squashed against Brock Lesnar, right? That shows you that they're willing to take the chance, and when it doesn't work, they're pulling the plug. I think that's what we saw with Jey Uso to a degree. They took the chance. It's not what they need right now, and they pulled the plug. Maybe they come back again. Maybe they don't. But the point is they gave him the chance, and he wasn't what they wanted. Not right then. I can't tell you that Sami Zayn is going to be a success as a champion. I can't tell you that everybody's going to rally around him. What I can tell you is that he has the dynamics for it. What I can tell you is the narrative is there for him to be the underdog guy that makes that climb to the top and barely wins, that, Daniel Bryan, Bret Hart story that we all love, cheering on the underdog. Because what do we all know? If Kevin Nash has taught us one thing, it's that one thing is that The money is in the chase. And that's what we should have gotten with Sami Zayn. But the pivot is on, ladies and gentlemen. And the pivot's been on, by the way. If you haven't seen, John Cena has been doing the rounds. There is a lot of tension going on in WWE surrounding John Cena and the decisions that they've made with him creatively. Okay. First and foremost, for him to come out and clarify, hey, I'm not picking my opponents. I wrestle who they give me. I've always wrestled who they give me. This isn't me. I didn't bring Brock back. And for Triple H to try to clarify that even more shows you that that's a tumultuous topic there. That is not something that they had seen as approval to put out or to say, storyline or shoot or other. Now, Cena has come out now and has started saying how his whole run was a failure, how the heel turn was a failure, how the whole run went down in flames. And he used the word failure specifically. So WWE has done what? They've pivoted, right? They pivoted from The Rock. They pivoted from Travis Scott. They pivoted from Jey Uso. They pivoted from Gunther. They pivoted from every single facet that had been utilized to make 2023 everything it was and 2024 even better. I think that Sami Zayn is indicative of a bigger problem going on right now with WWE. Now, while I love Triple Mania this weekend, it was great. I don't love what's going on with Seth Rollins. I don't love what's going on with Roman Reigns. I think CM Punk is purposely being thrown under shitty booking. I don't know why. Possibly because he can't go anymore. Possibly because they bought him and he wasn't what they thought he'd be, right? Possibly because he's botched in every single big match he's had, whether in AEW or WWE, and he's no longer the best in the world. You know, maybe he left the best version of himself that night at the Royal Rumble when he walked out of the company. That might have also been the night that the best version of CM Punk died. Or that was kind of harsh. Fuck. You know what I'm trying to say, though. I'm not trying to be morbid or anything. I'm just saying I don't think that version of CM Punk ever came back. You know, I think Billionaire Phil or Half a Bill Phil, whatever, Matt knows it better. Whatever that was, whatever that is, that's who we have right now, for better or worse. And there's clearly animosity between the way that Triple H wanted a book and the way that The Rock wanted a book. And from what I've heard, there is a fundamental difference in philosophy when it comes to booking wrestling between them two. And that's not going to help things at all. And I think what Triple H has done here has shown that he is not capable of making shit into gold. He is just not. And first of all, turning Cena heel is not shit. That is a narrative and storyline that so many creatives in wrestling would have loved to tackle. Listen to me. There isn't a booker in the wrestling world today, right now, that doesn't think that if they got a crack at that John Cena narrative and storyline, that they wouldn't have hit the home run. They know they would have hit that grand slam. And there's so many different things we could talk about that could have been done or should have been done. But bottom line is it was a failure, and they're pivoting. And they're pivoting from every single storyline that they set up post-Mania. What WrestleMania looks like this year isn't going to be based on anything we've seen, isn't going to be based on any storylines that are current or past. They're going to be based off fresh narratives that come out, you know, probably on the road to WrestleMania, maybe even later. From what I understand, April 2026 is the first date that, or is the month that the WWE ESPN deal will kick off. I'm hearing they're going to have one ESPN thing or match or whatever, basically to give a taste of what's to come, I guess. But I'm sorry, this is not the way to go. This is not the way to go, where you're just burning every storyline, you know. And Mech says, if you think Cena isn't picking his opponents, you're smoking some good shit. Maybe, you know. But I think the point is that nobody wants to take the responsibility of blowing this. I mean, Cena turning heel is a storyline that we've all considered, and it just like WCW, WWF, the invasion angle was terrible. Now, partly it was terrible because, the biggest stars in WCW were no longer under deal with, WCW, and their contracts couldn't transfer. And so they couldn't make deals with guys like Sting and Goldberg, and the Hogans took a little while for them to really secure. So the invasion angle got hurt, but it was never good. It was never working. It always was the crux of those invasion narratives were always propped up by the ego and narcissism of Vince McMahon, who thought he owned wrestling at that point, right? And still does probably. Um that was a terrible, terrible, terrible way to bring in those guys. And it almost felt like Vince was punishing them, right? And then you go back to like Sting's final run in WWE, or his only run in WWE, and how much shit that was. Like it always seemed like he was just punishing the guys that were, working against him during that time. Sami Zayn gets booted to SmackDown. Then, after months of saying, "Oh, I heavyweight title, I need my heavyweight, I haven't been heavyweight champion," he comes out and says, "You know what else I haven't been? The U.S. champion." They changed their name to MFTs, and you're still ready to fight the Bloodline. And the Bloodline have no reason to be chasing Sammy anymore either. Why are they showing up to Raw for that? I have no clue. Like, it just feels so stupid. It feels so narrativeless. It feels so just like thought up randomly and at the last minute. They did Sammy wrong. They really did. And I'm not interested in any of this bullshit about the United States title. First of all, the Jacob Fatu, like, what these dudes, I'm telling you, like, this is feeling more and more like the Vince era of let's throw shit at the wall. Whatever sticks is what we're going to run. Whatever we can sell a bunch of shirts of or a bunch of puppets of, that's how we're going to book our shit. And I'm sorry, it's just not working. It feels the same every time. And I get it. I get it. Seth Rollins' entire shtick at this point, right? They're supposed to be evolution. And they're getting the evolution booking, right? The Vision has been on top of like 90% of every Raw that has ended after WrestleMania this year. Like literally like 95%. They have stood tall, including this past week. I'll make another. Here's a prediction. They're going to be standing tall this week. And I get it. This is the Triple H, Ric Flair, which represent Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins. And then you have the Batista and the Randy Orton, which represent, in this case, the Braun Brawns. I don't know, dude. I just don't think that they were ever going to really do anything. I think Mex was right the whole time about Sammy's booking, that it was always just for show and it was always just to prop up other narratives. Like, he was just another body to fight, right? But man, like, where are you going with this? Because Punk isn't the guy to tell a story, right? Cody's is over. Who are your baby faces? Who are your guys that you're putting everything on? You got your one John Cena replacement, so it's no longer time to develop anything else. And what's up with Karrion Kross? Y'all are trying to get people to like chant his name because he's not really fired and nobody's really believing that he is. I mean, it kind of feels like he might be, but at the same time, I'm not buying it. I know Mex ain't buying it. And look what Mex has just said. Do you think Jericho's coming back? That was another thing that we were gonna that is being talked about. Jericho coming back. All these people trying to flood back into the Raw and SmackDown doors of WWE because they feel like the fruit has no more ripe. They're doing it because they feel like the fruit isn't going to be any more riper or ripe than it is now, right? They are trying to capitalize, and that's okay. That's okay. And by the way, that this is going to happen if AEW survives the next decade, right? And I hope they do. If they survive the next decade, they're going to get a major star. Seth Rollins or fucking Kevin Owens or AJ Styles or somebody who isn't being utilized, Drew McIntyre, somebody who feels like they're not being utilized the way they should, are going to haggle and they're going to go to AEW. And guess what? They should. The only reason Hogan was able to revive his career is because he was in WCW. Okay. The only reason that Dean Ambrose isn't the legacy of John Moxley anymore is because he went to AEW. You know, the reason Jericho had this resurgence in his career that, granted, might be dying down by now, but is still alive. The reason he had it is because of AEW. When you can go to another company and try something fresh, try something different, and it works, that's the only time you can do it. It's hard to go to a company and just be repackaged after being off the air for months, right? They know who's not contracted and who isn't. They know that. The fans know. So you're never going to get any of them. You're never going to get back to the time where all of us weren't watching Dave Meltzer or Twitter or Fightful or any of that stuff. You're never going to get back to that time. So what you could do is actually try the storylines, actually go through with them, not just repackage the same thing. It's not a long-term story to just have Liv and Rhea fight every month for like 10 months out of the year. That's not a long-term booking, right? That's recycling. Sami Zayn at least would have been a different offering, would have been at least a different story. But again, this all goes back to the narrative that what is happening right now. And WWE is pulling the plug on everything they were trying after Mania. Everything. So let me ask you a question. Why should we buy into anything? Why should we buy into any single narrative, any single booking, when we know the likelihood is that those people aren't going to be used unless their names are Fatu or Tonga or Rhodes? And it's true. You know, Drew McIntyre said the same thing on Logan Paul's podcast. And everybody took it as heelish because him and Logan were buddies and they were, you know, working the heel shtick against Randy and Jelly Roll. But the truth is that they were so undeniably good together. And it's true. But Drew was speaking the truth, and that's why people reacted, and that's why people were reacting to Karrion Kross. Mech said, if WWE is truly trying to redo Roman's contract and he's unhappy, if I'm Tony, I throw $500 million at him for 6 to 10 dates and change the direction of wrestling. You know, Mex, I love your bookings. You are just so good at that. Bro, here's the thing. Can a company survive throwing $500 million for 10 dates max? I don't know. That seems 10 dates. So what do you get? You get like 5 pay-per-views or 4 pay-per-views, maybe even 3 pay-per-views, because you got to introduce him. So that's 1 date. Then you got to get him. Then you got to build him heat. That's another date, right? Then you got to secure a feud. That's another date. Then you got to give him his next match, right? All that's before you get onto pay-per-view. Well, I guess you don't need to book Roman the same way you would like anyone else, right? You could just throw him into the mix. In fact, you probably won't get a Roman unless you throw him into the mix. Matt said the same thing too. He's like, dude, if I'm Tony Khan, or I think maybe it was you, Mex, y'all said, dude, I'd be calling Bill Goldberg right now. See, that's the thing, is you want to secure these guys and you want to do all that, but like these guys want so much more than they're capable of giving, right? Goldberg wanted this money contract, right? And then complained about the lack of dates. But like, you know, what would you have done with them, champ? How much more were you going to make us buy into this to this Gunther feud? Like, it wasn't going to happen. It wasn't going to happen at all. Scared money don't make money. True, Mex. It would be a big swing, and it would be a big swing. It really would. But I think guys are going to go back and forth for years, right? If AEW can survive, you know, we're going to be all AEW'd out when they get like Kevin Owens or something crazy. And then we're going to be back to WWE when MJF, makes his eventual debut, or Will Ospreay, or even Kenny Omega, maybe. Who knows? The Young Bucks have been rumored, but Chris Jericho, I think, going back to WWE, understands that like now's the time to get in while the getting's good, and they can use him, right? And he's willing to do the job, and that's what they want. From what I'm hearing, CM Punk's got major heat in the back still with a lot of the younger guys, younger veterans, let's put it that way. Or maybe seasoned young guys, let's call it that, right? Not veterans, but like seasoned young guys. And the rumors, and a lot of the people are, and one of the only people that are actually spreading these rumors is Matt Riddle. So you got to take everything with a grain of salt. But apparently, there are multiple reports from multiple people who are willing to go on record yet, or if at all, that CM Punk's been difficult to work with, that all he does is complain about his booking and he tries to change every single thing. And it's like he's like, because there was a big talking point about Monet over the summer, and if her booking was fair, how she was winning titles and all these different promotions, and people were saying that they needed to take away her creative control. And Fightful had to do this whole thing on what creative control is, just because so many people don't understand creative control. Creative control doesn't exist. Not really, not anymore. I mean, there are probably a handful of guys maybe spread out across like every single promotion that have some heavy influence. But dude, the days of Hogan calling the shots and it not working for him, brother, or Kevin Nash, booking him as the fucking kingpin, like those days are over, dude. Those days are over. Monet was not booking herself to be champion. They were telling a story. And by the way, a lot of you fucking fell for it. So, it kind of worked. It was like the same thing with R-Truth, right? Whether R-Truth was a work or not, it worked. So what does it fucking matter? Yeah, Riddle is pretty bitter, so I don't know. I don't care. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's not a word that could be trusted. He's tried to throw a few people under the bus already. Brock Lesnar, Triple H. So, going after veterans is like his shtick, right? Like, he's a guy who doesn't. Here's what I think people don't respect, like about Matt Riddle. I think that he has this bigger respect, or this deeper respect, for MMA and UFC. And it hurts his ability to be, what's the word, like cordial with wrestlers or superstars. Like, he's not going to ever give the respect to, like, let's say a guy like Brock Lesnar, or I don't know, Seth Rollins. I don't. He's never going to give respect to a guy who took that, whose reputation rests solely on the wrestling, because he feels like he deserves more, I think, as a guy who can actually fight. I mean, you hear him taking shots at CM Punk all the time. But listen, we are very close to ending the show, so I'm gonna hit the speed button here. We're gonna get into boxing real quick. I want to talk about Moses. Listen, great fight. Dillian White has been a guy who's always been tough. He's always been dangerous. And he had a bit of a renaissance late in his career. This is a guy who has been in there with the best of them. And to see Moses absolutely just dismantle him with body work and changing angles. I mean, Dillian White must have thought he was in there with 3 different guys. He must have thought that, with the way he was getting hit and angle changes and taking certain like certain pivots that gave him angles and changing directions on his punches. Like, that was a big thing. The way he was able to change direction on his punches and lower his entire, like, I would show you on the bag right here, but my office is fucked. Would you still want to see Dillian fight Wilder or rematch AJ? No. I will watch the Wilder fight, I think, for sure, but I don't want to see him fight AJ. But the point is this: after the fight, the casual fandom, a lot of them are people who are content creators in boxing. Like, it's so crazy how very few people that cover boxing actually know boxing and how it works, right? Like, because you'd never make certain statements that if you didn't, right? Like I was talking a couple weeks ago about how Boxing Ego, was talking shit about a snack letter that had the wrong date at the top, and that was like a smoking gun, and everybody just started going after Conte. And it's not to say that you shouldn't go after Conte, or like it's wrong or anything like that. I'm saying, if you're gonna do it, if you're gonna go after him with something real, something authentic, something that actually makes a point. Don't go after him and make him look smarter and make him look cleaner, because that's what you ended up doing. People are like, "Oh, give us the ingredients and snack right now." The hell, those snack products have been had their nutritional values and ingredients in them. That was never hidden. And major companies and sporting franchises utilize snack products, and not just snack products, by the way. Snack is one of the only companies that makes I forgot what element of protein it is, but it's like some element that so many other institutes buy from them, right? They talk about their sales like, "Oh, y'all don't sell enough. How are y'all paying these fighters?" Not realizing they have wholesale deals with, major distributors and companies that create other things. And so, or like supplements, obviously, but like not snack related supplements. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. You got to know what you're talking about. But I can tell you right now, the excitement I will forgive, because Moses is exciting, right? And here's the thing. Steve Kim wrote something on Twitter, I think yesterday. He said something along the lines of like, a lot of people are calling for this fight with Moses and Usyk, and that's too soon. Agreed. But who does Usyk end up with right now that is actually like on his level? Right? Because that's the big thing right now. Moses is not on Usyk's level. If they fought, I'd have very little confidence, if any, that Moses would win that fight. I'd have it probably like 90-10, 85-15 in Usyk's favor. This kid hasn't even been under the bright lights yet. Not really. That Dillian White fight was, a significant fight against a significant opponent, but it's still a long time B-sider to an A-sider. That's what it is. That's what it was. So it wasn't like this huge fight. Like if he fought AJ, I guess Wilder too, maybe in the States, or I don't know. They love to hate him in the UK. So maybe if it was in the UK, but those two would be like huge fights, right? That would be like a way of testing whether Moses is ready for the limelight and the bright spotlight or not. White never realized what happened. You're absolutely right, Mex. He did not see any of those punches at all. I can't stress enough how you have to. Okay, so it's hard because a lot of people are like, "Oh, Dillian White's washed. Dillian White sucks. He's old, blah, blah." Sure, that's a fair point to make. And in boxing, aging overnight is a thing, right? We could have seen the worst version of Dillian White on Saturday, but I don't think that was the case. I don't think that was the full case. I don't think that what we saw in terms of the body shot that landed ends up being the punch that did it. Like, it's just like, you have to give credit to Moses. You have to try to make this as a one-sided thing that Dillian White was just like not there anymore, or just didn't show up to fight, or whatever. It diminishes what this kid did. A lot of people have had the opportunity to do this to Dillian White, and they couldn't. I don't think he's ready for Usyk. I'm fairly confident of it. What I do think, though, is that based on the landscape of the heavyweight division, Moses represents potentially the classic crossing of the guard fight. And this is the fight where the old heavyweight champion who beat everybody and has solidified his legacy in this era of heavyweights as the best and the greatest amongst the rest. And then you have the upstart. You got Moses, who's coming in and he's strong, and they're calling him the next Mike Tyson, and he's getting knockouts with body shots and crazy angles and all this stuff. That is a sellable fight. But until Moses puts commercial names on his scalp, he doesn't belong anywhere in the conversation of Usyk. You see, this is a two-person sport, right? When you have a matchmaker, he's not a matchmaker for one guy. I mean, sure he is, but he's thinking about both fighters. How do they fight? How do their styles match up? Is it going to be a boring fight, or will we get more of an action fight? What do they complement each other with style-wise? What does one have that the other doesn't, and vice versa? All that is important when you are matchmaking, right? For Moses, he has to be match made in a way that makes it lucrative for Usyk. Right now, this kid is a I'm not calling him a flash in the pan, not at all. I don't think we know what he is yet. What I'm saying is, if at this point he were to lose or get exposed, then you could call him a flash in the pan. We have to be sure that Moses is not just a flash in the pan before he is able to even get in the ring with Usyk. Beating an AJ would certainly help. Beating a Fury would certainly help, but I don't know if he's ready for either of those fights either. It's not to say that I don't think he could beat an AJ, but why is this kid deserve to make millions of dollars at this stage of his career when Dillian White in a first round knockout is his most experience at the highest level? I'm sorry, this kid needs more than a few dozen championship or a few dozen professional boxing rounds to be considered ready for that type of fight. Shout out to Shoeshine in the chat. You are the champ, my friend. Definitely want to get you on, by the way, this week. Let me know if you and Drew got the time. Can he beat a former champ, Andy Ruiz? Yes, he can beat an Andy Ruiz, I think, right now. I think that the only ones that are going to give him problems are the guys that can move, are the guys that can be elusive. This is a kid who needs to have the momentum in his favor. He needs to be able to be dictating that fight for him to score big, right? This isn't a counter puncher like Marquez who's going to catch you coming in. That's uh-oh. Did we drop off? Nope, never mind. Yo, shout out Adrian in the chat. Sonteo Media, what is going on? The boxing historian champ, Tony Lopez in the house. Oh, my aunt's on there. Hi, Aunt Teresa. How you doing? I don't know if you can see the thing you made me, but it's right there. Put Moses in with Big Bang. Yeah, that's a good fight right there. Big Bang, Andy Ruiz. These are good fights. By the way, those are all, in my opinion, winnable fights. All fights that should give credence to the idea of him being more of a 50-50 fight with Usyk. Look, I think he would have to go through Fury, AJ, Zoo, Zoo, Andy Ruiz, any wild man, maybe not Wilder, Joseph Parker, even Chisora, all these names, if he could get like 4 of those scalps in the next 2 years, I think 2027, maybe early 2028, the kid is ready. Again, like y'all, boxing moves so slow, and so many people forget this, right? Like people would talk shit about the Devin Haney, Tio, Lomachenko, Tank, Ryan Garcia era, about how none of them really fought each other. I mean, very few of them fought each other, right? And that's true, but it's also still very early in their careers, right? Like these guys want to fight each other when it means the most. And right now for Usyk, this doesn't mean the most at all. He could make more and get more out of beating probably AJ again than, or maybe not AJ again, but Wilder, I think, would have more of a significant impact on his resume than Moses would at this point. All we know about this kid is he looks good. All we know about this kid is he's got real power. And all of those factors equate to the potential of a star in the making, a guy who is equal parts commercially attractive because he gets knockouts and he's, just a young kid, got a good smile, all that, all the commercial aspects of him. But then he is also equal parts good, talented, athletic, capable of, picking apart his opponents methodically. And that's what he does really, really well, is he's able to dictate the pace, keep momentum, not let shifts in momentum occur, even if the guy's throwing punches back or trying to counter. Moses does not let you off the hook at all. And even when he's not pressing, you can see him. You can see he's calculating the biggest and worst punch he could deliver. The only thing is if you want to get him in with Usyk, you got to do it now, because I don't think we see Usyk in 2026 or ever again. No, champ. Here's the thing. I think he's done for 2025, and I agree. We might not see him again in 2026 at all. But Usyk's coming back. I think that we haven't seen the last of Usyk. I think, first of all, this is a guy who has a lot of reasons to give positive media to his country. and he cares about stuff like that. So did Lomachenko. These guys care about the narrative and their country and being stars and heroes for them, especially because they've had such huge countrymen that have showed the blueprint for a fighter from that area. You can become the mayor, you could become a senator, maybe a president, who knows? But boxing is different right now for that country. So I don't think Usyk's going anywhere. I just don't think he's going anywhere right away. I think we got one Usyk fight left, and that's it. Yeah, you could be right about that. There could be one last Usyk fight, and it might be Moses. I just don't think it's going to be now. There's no way Usyk is the kind of fighter, I think, that's going to try to just get a kid because he's young, right? That sounded weird. Pause. I don't think he's gonna try to pull the Mayweather Canelo move, right? Or at least that's what a lot of people say that was. Fine, fair. I don't think he'll do that. Maybe he will, but I don't think he would. And so if you're waiting for any reason, then it's to have this kid commercially or have his value increase commercially to match that of Usyk's, right? And here's the thing. Moses has the ability in the next few years, depending on how he's matched, to really sway that line. Maybe not 50-50 ever, but people love knockouts more than they do incredible performances. And that's just true. As much as Usyk has been exciting in the heavyweight division, a lot of people don't remember some of his first few fights where he was getting acclimated to the weight were snooze fest. A lot of people thought he lost that first fight too, or second fight, whatever it was, to Chisora. And so I wouldn't begrudge anybody who becomes a Moses fan in the next 2-3 years simply because he has a better highlight reel, simply because he's doing more against opponents that have never either been stopped or never been brutally stopped. I mean, people have to remember how many big fights Dillian White has been in and how many times he's shown a big chin throughout his career and how he was just put on the deck so quickly into the first round. It was like he never had a chance. I could see Usyk fighting Jake after what his manager put out today. Yeah, sadly, I could see a lot of people fighting Jake at this point. I think if the AJ fight does happen, we won't see that. We won't see anything. I think that AJ beats that kid so badly that he either never wants to take that type of fight again or nobody ever buys another fight like that again. Yeah, listen, he fights AJ, he's ruining his own career. He really is. But I mean, now is the time definitely to ruin your own career. If you're Jake Paul, you cash out on yourself early. Listen, last topic of the night, and doesn't look like anybody's jumped on, which is okay. Oh man, I got the chills. We will be back tomorrow, so all these topics are still up. Got to cover Raw though. The UFC this past weekend. Oh man, first of all, I was hit with so many injury bugs. I don't think that fight helped the UFC one bit. I really don't. I think that as a fan of the UFC and the product, I know that a championship fight can be dull. I know that we can get a lane prey affair at any moment. In fact, there started to become a time in the mid 2010s where we were seeing more lay and pray style type fights, right? Like we were seeing like Anderson Silva put out a few stinkers, GSP put out a few stinkers. Who else? There's a few other people that put out some stinkers, and it didn't happen at the top level more often than we saw bangers, right? Like, I mean, the times that Rua fought or the times that Chuck Liddell or Rampage or any of the guys that gave us these crazy shows, even Rampage was in a couple snoozers as well. Evans, all these guys are capable of, it's styles make fights. A lot of people think it's one-sided thing, right? That's why I say with Moses, he's got to be booked well to coin a phrase from wrestling. He's got to be booked well because he needs 3 different things to be achieved. All fighters do, but someone like Moses in his position needs 3 things. They need the opponent to give some resistance, right? Somebody who's going to take you a few rounds, somebody who's going to make you earn it. They need commercial viability, somebody who's been the B side to an A side before. Dillian White was the perfect example of these two things so far. And then the third thing is a style, an opponent with a style that allows for knockouts, allows for action, allows for your fighter to get off, right? And, some guys are really good at this. They're the kind of guys that could go in and say, oh, okay, you see this kid? You see this kid, Kodo? Yo, he's right for that uppercut, that right uppercut. Just get in southpaw, switch your stance, change the angle, by sliding your back foot to your left, and then hit him with that uppercut, and he's going to be there for it every time. There are guys that are that good, that are able to do that, and that's what Moses needs, and that is why MMA fights are sometimes really shit. Because, yeah, I think you had the two best guys in the division that fought each other on Saturday. I really do. And I think DDP is way better than what he showed, by the way. I really do. That said, it was a snooze fest. It was the worst performance that you could have hoped for after the announcement of such a huge deal with Paramount. And off the heels of the TKO shows that have been fairly successful within the bull riding community, within the wrestling community. I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry. It's just not going to be the thing that works for me, brother, at all. UFC cannot put themselves in a position where they are taking so long to make some of the best fights, right? Like, it was one thing when back in the day you didn't make the GSP Anderson Silvas of the world, or you didn't make the Brock and Fedors of the world, right? That's one thing. Those were very difficult matches with very high priced assets. Roy Jones and Anderson Silva. Remember, we didn't get that, and both of them wanted it, and Dana White was the reason we didn't get it. But today is not that era. Today there are very few stars like there were in the past eras of the UFC. So we have to be putting guys with style matchups that work best. Okay, that's how we get the best out of UFC today. And right now, I feel like the matchmaking going on in the UFC has been slow. Now, there have been some great fights, especially at middleweight this year and welterweight. But there's no big there are no big fights like that. Not on the horizon. Not really. I mean, look at the fight coming up too, like the next pay-per-view. That's a fight that should have happened. That's a fight that should have been happened. And yet we're capitalizing on a point where there's another fight everybody else wants to see. There's always going to be the other fight, right? The boxing UFC combat sports model isn't based on promoting the fight today. It's about promoting the fight tomorrow. So when you get to UFC 319, you're already promoting UFC 320 and 321 and wherever those are, right? Same thing with WWE. We're already selling tickets to the Survivor Series. We don't even know who's going to be there. We don't have a match for it yet, and they're getting ready to start selling those tickets. Ultimately, if the UFC isn't going to run itself in a manner for which guys like Conor McGregor or Bones Jones or Aldo or any of the guys, BJ Penn, that have come out to be significant stars, some of them crossover stars. Rampage, while he didn't really cross over in Hollywood, despite having that huge A-Team movie, he is making strides on Kick as a live streamer. A lot of people find him very funny. A lot of people think he's, I don't really enjoy him live streams. He comes across as a guy who would do a lot for a buck, and I don't care. Like, I'm not here to check your morals at all. I don't give a shit what you do for money, but I don't know. It seems desperate. Like, he doesn't seem funny. He comes off as desperate sometimes. But anyway, they got to do better, man. They got to do better. And I think what we saw this weekend was a handful of guys, a handful of matchups that were done well despite the injuries. And, there were some big upsets on the card as well. But ultimately, nobody is going to remember anything on the undercard because of what transpired in the main event. And Dana has to remember this. The way that UFC works will never, or at this point can never be like WWE, where it's a full product that's really judged top to bottom. It's going to be more like boxing for a longer time than he probably would like it to be, where you need that star, that A-side attraction that's going to get them in the building, that you can build around stars around him, right? Like, remember what HBO tried to do with Chocolatito when they had Golovkin. Look at Bam Rodriguez's recent promotional bookings. Don't tell me they're not trying to get the rub there. I think it was a disappointing UFC match. I really do. But I also think that the best middleweight in the world is currently holding the undisputed middleweight title. I also think there's a very good chance he is a top pound for pound guy, somewhere in the top 5, top 3, maybe. I get it. He hasn't fought a lot, but to me, that's why he's so good to me, because I know the truth about combat sports. I know the truth that many of you know, and that is there is no substitute for activity. Without activity, you will falter. You will lose. You cannot survive in combat sports without the activity. And you want to ask me, for some data points, I'll say just go to PBC and look up their whole entire fucking stable when they signed, when they started. And you ask how many of those guys went on to become bigger stars than they were when they left Golden Boy, right? Like the Abner Matises of the world, the Leo Santa Cruzes of the world. Like, did they really capitalize on this crazy time where, yeah, I guess you could say that because the money was being thrown around by, what was the law firm? Something in Wad, whatever. That was, a long time ago, but now we're in a position where I don't know. It just feels like TKO is thinking so far ahead that they're not really looking at the, oncoming traffic or whatever that saying is. Mex said, yo, the Wednesday schedule us a show, review the Cowboys doc. Hell yeah, champ. That's for sure going down. I love that idea. Yeah, a lot of people have been telling me, DMing me to do that, to do the Cowboys doc, because first of all, man, that the Bulls one was so amazing, right? My fear is Jerry's hand in the production, how much say so he had about what's used and what's not. Because from what I understand and from what I've seen of people that have reviewed it or trailers or whatever, it's about how much of a role Jerry played in transforming the Cowboys into America's team. And it kind of seems like bullshit. I'll be honest, like more than not, right? Like, okay, you put the pieces together, but I don't know. We'll see though. Listen, that's going to do it for me today. I appreciate everybody who has tapped in. Please go to fightsatw.com, fightsaroundtheworld.com, to check out my previews and recaps on everything WWE, and as well as a lot of really good articles out right now. What's going on between the beef with Xander Zayas and one Virgil Ortiz? Well, you can go to fightsatw.com right now and read all about it. What is the Twitter beef between the two? Yeah, we'll talk about it tomorrow though. Yeah. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Go to fightsatw.com right now. It's on the homepage. I promise you. And then you'll be ready for the show and we'll talk about it tomorrow. But listen, if you could please like, share, and subscribe, I would very much appreciate it. Go to fightsatw.com after Raw to get my recap on the show and everything that I see about it. And please subscribe on YouTube, Infighting Exchange, spelled Infighting FX on YouTube. Please go to TikTok as well, where I'm posting and going live and doing workout streams. It's the work. So they're called Raw is Workouts. And we have one scheduled for tomorrow on Tuesday. And most of it is like full body stuff. What I'm going to try to do is make the schedule this. Basically, I'll try to go to the gym between like 6 a.m. and like 9 a.m. and do my not powerlifting, but like free weights, right? I still do squats and I still deadlift and bench and everything. Just I don't do powerlifting workouts anymore. But like do that and then like work and then like come home and be in a position where like I could go live like around 2, 3 o'clock and then get my workout in here, like a full body type of thing, right? So we use like free weights here, bands. I got jump ropes. I got cones. I got just a bunch of stuff. I mean, we haven't really used more than bands and weights, but we will. Anyway, Tap in Fighting FX everywhere. Appreciate everybody in the chat today. Supermax, Chris was in the building. Shoeshine, my mans, and Machine Gun. Also Santiago Media Champ. Always good to see you. Adrian Reina, appreciate you being in the chat as well. And Teresa, thank you for tapping in. And Tony, my mans. Not Boxing Historian. Well, shout out to Boxing Historian, but who was it? Was it Boxing TM? I forgot who it was. Let me see. A Mario Border Wars return. I don't know, champ. That sounds like it could be on and popping. Wait, where is he? Oh, Boxing Chris. That's who it was. Sorry I didn't get to your other questions, champ. I didn't see him until right now. My bad. No, I don't think that. Yes. Oh, no, I'm sorry. The question you phrased it weird. I think that yes, AEW is being counter programmed 100%. I've heard that they're active not schemes, what's the word? They're active intentions right now to put AEW out of business is a weird way to put it. I wouldn't say that, but I would say that it's like I guess Matt said it best, like not letting them expand. Because if you don't grow, you die. You know what I mean? Like that's the whole point of everything. You know, business is set up in a way, especially the entertainment business, where if you're not growing, you're dying. And so if they can keep AEW from making more gains and stifle them, like, you know, WWE's done a really bad job of keeping AEW down. If that's been the thing they've wanted to do. I don't think they've made an active effort until very recently, like the last 6 months to a year. But I what we saw with NXT, I don't think they ever forgave that. I really don't. I don't think they forgave him for how much credit and how much joy they took in winning the Wednesday Night Wars. I don't know if Vince was ever pissed. I don't really think they were on his radar like that, but I do think that someone like Triple H, who very much still wants the approval, a lot of those indie guys, you know what I mean? Like he's got his buddies, he's got his buds, and he books that way, you know? They're big leaguing them, show of force. Yeah, that's definitely what it is, but it's intentional, right? This isn't like a situation that's like, oh, we could move, but we're not going to because fuck them, we don't care. No, there's a situation where it's like, no, we're not going to make a date because we need to know when they're going, because then we're going to go when they're going. Like holding off Brock Lesnar and John Cena just to compete with AEW, that's crazy. Like, why not make Brock Lesnar, John Cena like as big as it could be, right? With a great storyline. Why make it Goldberg Gunther again, all over again? Just the novelty of it. You know what John Cena and Brock Lesnar is? John Cena and Brock Lesnar is a better version with lesser names than the Shawn Michaels Triple H versus Brothers of Destruction that we got in Saudi. That was their final match, I guess. I don't even consider it because it sucks so bad. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for me. Appreciate everybody. Until tomorrow, tap in. Peace.